Let's get real for a second. Have you ever noticed how certain women just have that pull on men? There's something about them that keeps a guy completely hooked, thinking about them non-stop, craving their presence, their energy, their vibe. It's like something invisible has taken over his mind, and no matter what he does, he just cannot shake her. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. Is it about looks? Is it about being drop-dead gorgeous or having some wild skill set? Nope, not even close. Because sexual attraction is not just physical. It goes way deeper than that. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who wasn't even your type on paper, but something about them just pulled you in? Maybe it was their energy. Maybe it was the way they spoke, the way they held themselves, the way they made you feel truly seen in a way nobody else ever did. That's because real attraction is a full-body experience. It's not just what a guy sees, it's what he feels when he's in your presence. And if you want to be the woman a man craves on a level he can barely explain, you have to go deeper. You have to create an experience. One that stays with him long after you've walked out of the room. That's exactly what we're breaking down today. Because making a man obsessed with you has nothing to do with chasing him or trying too hard. It's about understanding the subtle but powerful shifts that make a man need you, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and energetically. Stay with me because I'm about to share 4 powerful keys that will change the way you think about attraction entirely. Let's start with something most people completely underestimate, and that is the power of anticipation. Here's what nobody tells you. Desire actually lives in space. Most people think that the more available they are, the more a man will want them. But that's backwards. Attraction isn't built through constant presence. It's built through anticipation. That electric feeling of almost getting what you want, but not quite. That tension, that edge, that sense of something amazing being just within reach. Think about the last time you were genuinely excited about something. A trip you had been planning for months. A message from someone that made your stomach flip. What made it so thrilling? It wasn't the moment itself. It was the build-up, the waiting, the imagining. And when it finally came, it hit even harder than you expected. That's exactly how attraction operates. And understanding this one thing will completely shift how a man experiences you. Because here's what most women do. They meet a guy they like. They want to show they're interested. So they text constantly. They always say yes. They make themselves available around the clock. They try to lock things down fast because they're scared that if they don't, he'll move on. But here's the problem. The more predictable you become, the less exciting you are. That's not about playing games. That's just how human psychology works. And the fix isn't manipulation. It's having a life so full and so interesting that you genuinely can't always drop everything. That energy is irresistible. A woman who has her own world going on is a woman worth chasing. Here's something that trips people up all the time. Giving too much, too soon, actually kills attraction. Imagine you're binge-watching a new show, and in the very first episode, they reveal every twist, every shock, every surprise of the whole season. Would you still be hooked? Probably not. The reason you can't stop watching is because you don't know what's coming. You're invested. You're curious. The same thing happens in attraction. If you put everything on the table right away, if there's nothing left to discover, nothing left to wonder about, the pull disappears. Men are naturally drawn to the pursuit, not because they want to play games, but because earning something makes them value it infinitely more. So the key is to let things unfold at a natural pace, rather than rushing toward the finish line. One of the most powerful ways to create this kind of anticipation is through small, intentional moments. When you're with him, be completely present. Hold his gaze. Laugh freely. Touch his arm lightly during conversation. But then create space. End the evening while the energy is still high and exciting, not when things start to feel routine. Leave before the moment fully peaks. That gap between what he has and what he wants more of, that's where craving is born. Think of it like a song. A constant, unbroken sound would bore you instantly. It's the pauses, the silence between the notes, the tension before the next beat drops that makes music emotional. That's what keeps you listening. Relationships work the exact same way. Now here's what separates women who are merely attractive from women who are truly unforgettable. And that's emotional and intellectual connection. When people talk about attraction, they always go straight to the physical, looks, body language, chemistry, the surface stuff. And sure, those things spark initial interest, but they are not what make a man stay up at night thinking about you. What keeps a man mentally hooked is how you make him feel, specifically how you make him feel about himself. A man can be with the most stunning woman in the world, but if she doesn't engage his mind, if she doesn't challenge him or make him feel something deeper, that attraction fades fast. Think about the people who have had the biggest impact on your life. Chances are it's not purely because of how they looked. It's because of how they made you feel. Maybe they had a way of seeing the world that shifted something in you. Maybe they made you feel heard in a way that was genuinely rare. That's what creates lasting attraction. And if you want a man to crave you on a deeper level, you have to engage him beyond the physical. You have to make him crave your mind just as much as your presence. One of the biggest turn-ons that almost nobody talks about openly is intellectual chemistry. When a woman can hold a conversation that keeps a man genuinely on his toes, when she can challenge him in a way that excites rather than threatens, when she can make him actually think, everything shifts. Because men don't just want someone beautiful. They want someone intriguing. Intrigue is what makes a man lie awake replaying your conversation, wondering what you'll say next, thinking about how he can match your energy. Now, this doesn't mean you need to quote philosophy or debate complex topics every time you talk. It just means bringing real substance to the table, having opinions, asking questions that make him pause, sharing a perspective he didn't expect. When you do that, you stop being just someone he's attracted to, and you become someone who stands out completely. Because honestly, a lot of men are used to surface-level conversation, the same predictable back and forth. But when a woman comes along who actually makes them think, it catches them off guard in the best possible way. And here's the fascinating part. When a man feels intellectually engaged, when he feels like he's genuinely learning something from being around you, it creates a tension that makes the physical attraction multiply. The mental and the physical feed each other. One deepens the other. But emotional connection matters just as much as intellectual spark. A man can be endlessly fascinated by your mind, but if he doesn't feel emotionally safe around you, the connection will always have a ceiling. Emotional connection is what turns physical desire into something deeper, something lasting, something he doesn't want to walk away from. And what creates that emotional bond? It's simpler than most people think. It's making him feel understood. When a man feels like you genuinely see him, not just the version of himself he puts on for the world, but the real version, something shifts. When he feels like he can be open around you without fear of judgment, he starts to form an attachment that goes way beyond attraction. This is why being a truly present listener is one of the most powerful and underrated things you can do. Most people listen just to respond, but if you listen in a way that makes someone feel genuinely heard, If you remember the small details he mentioned weeks ago and bring them up naturally, that creates an emotional imprint. And once a man starts associating you with feeling seen, feeling understood, feeling mentally and emotionally alive, he won't be able to get enough of you. It becomes about something far beyond the physical at that point. It becomes about connection. And connection is the most addictive thing there is. Let's talk about sensory seduction and the art of leaving a mark. Attraction isn't just about what someone sees. It's about what they feel, smell, hear, and remember. The most powerful impressions aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that sneak in under the radar and stay. Think about the memories in your life that have stuck with you the longest. A song that transports you back to a specific night. A scent that instantly brings someone to mind. The way a certain touch felt even years later. Those memories weren't just about what happened. They were about how your senses were fully engaged in that moment. That's the kind of mark you want to leave on a man. You want to be the experience he keeps coming back to in his mind. So let's talk about scent first, because this one is wildly underestimated. Scent is directly connected to memory and emotion in a way that almost nothing else is.
A signature fragrance, something subtle and uniquely yours, creates a subconscious connection in his brain. Every time he catches that scent somewhere else in the world, it pulls him right back to you. That's not an accident. That's the nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. You don't need to overdo it. In fact, subtlety is the whole point. A light, consistent, recognizable scent that feels like part of who you are is far more powerful than anything loud or obvious. Now touch. And here's the thing most people get wrong about this. The most seductive touch is never the obvious one. It's the barely there touch. The moment when your fingers brush against his hand without fully landing. The light tap on his arm when you laugh at something he said. The fraction of a second longer that your hand lingers when passing him something. These small, almost accidental moments send a signal through his entire body. Men don't just respond to touch. They crave the anticipation of it. If you're constantly in his space, always making contact, it loses its weight. But if those moments feel rare, if they feel like something to look forward to, every single one carries power. That's the difference between touch that's forgettable and touch that he replays later. Your voice matters more than you might realize too. The rhythm of how you speak, the warmth in your tone, the way you slow down certain words or let your voice carry playfulness. All of it creates an experience. A voice with natural warmth and confidence draws people in before they even process why. A man might not remember the exact words you said, but he will absolutely remember how your voice made him feel. And then there's eye contact. This might be the most underrated tool of connection in existence. Most people avoid sustained eye contact because it feels vulnerable. But that vulnerability is exactly where the magic lives. When you hold a man's gaze just a second longer than expected, it says something without a single word. It says, I'm here. I see you. I'm not rushing away from this moment. And in a world where almost everyone is distracted, where real presence is genuinely rare, that kind of eye contact is electric. Add a slow, knowing smile to it, and you've just created tension that he'll be thinking about for days. But here's the deeper layer. It's not just about looking. It's about what you communicate through your eyes. Warmth, confidence, a quiet playfulness. Something that makes him feel like there's more to discover about you. That's what makes eye contact seductive rather than just intense. And then there's the power of contrast. If you want to be truly unforgettable, you cannot be one-dimensional. You have to carry multiple energies within you. Be soft and strong. Be playful and deep. Be warm and a little mysterious. Be the woman who makes him laugh hard, and then in the same evening looks him dead in the eyes and makes him completely lose his train of thought. It's that contrast that makes someone addictive. Because if you're always the same, always predictable, always exactly what he expects, there's nothing pulling him deeper. But when you shift between energies, when you're one thing in one moment and something surprising in the next, he can't figure you out completely, and he won't want to stop trying. Now we get to the thing that ties everything else together, and that's confidence and the energy you walk into a room with. If there is one quality that makes a man crave a woman in a way that never fades, it's this. Not looks, not a specific skill set, confidence. And not the loud performative kind. The quiet, settled, deeply internal kind. The kind that comes from a woman who is completely comfortable being exactly who she is. When a woman knows her own value, not because of external validation, but because she simply does, it creates a pull that is almost impossible to describe. It's the way she can sit in silence and still hold his full attention. It's the way she doesn't need reassurance, but when she gives a compliment, it actually means something because it's real. It's the way she moves through a room, not demanding to be noticed, but somehow being the person everyone notices anyway. That energy is what men become addicted to. Because at the end of the day, men don't just become hooked on women. They become hooked on how a specific woman makes them feel about themselves and about life. When you're around someone with that kind of settled, genuine confidence, you feel more alive, you feel more present, you feel like something real is happening. And that feeling, that's what he comes back for. That's what he can't find anywhere else. Making a man genuinely crave you has nothing to do with being the most conventionally beautiful woman he's ever met. It has nothing to do with doing something extreme or performing some version of yourself that isn't real. It's about creating a full experience, one built on anticipation, so he always wants more. One built on emotional and intellectual depth, so his mind keeps coming back to you. One built on sensory presence, so you leave a mark that lingers. And one built on genuine, unshakable confidence, so he feels the pull of your energy long after you've left. When you bring all four of those things together, you stop being someone he's interested in, and you become someone he needs. Not in a dependent, unhealthy way, but in the way that genuinely great connections make you feel. Like this person adds something to your life that nothing else quite replaces. That's the kind of woman who stays in a man's mind. That's the kind of woman who makes him reach for his phone just to hear her voice. That's the kind of woman who doesn't need to chase anyone because everyone already feels the pull toward her. And when you truly step into that version of yourself, not as a performance, but as a genuine way of living, that's when everything changes. That's when you stop wondering whether he's thinking about you, because you'll already know the answer. And there's one more thing worth understanding before we wrap this up completely. Something that most people never talk about, but that changes everything once you see it clearly. The women who have the most powerful effect on men are not the ones who are trying to have an effect at all. They're the ones who are so deeply invested in their own lives, their own growth, their own joy, that a man almost feels like he has to earn a place in that world. And that's not coldness. That's not playing hard to get. That is genuine self-possession. And it is the rarest, most magnetic quality a person can carry. Think about your own life right now. Are you building something that excites you? Are you pursuing things that light you up from the inside? Do you have friendships that fill you up, passions that keep you moving, goals that stretch you in the best way possible? Because here's what most people miss: the version of you that is fully engaged in her own life. The version of you that isn't sitting around waiting for someone to text back. The version of you that has so much richness happening that a relationship would be an addition rather than a rescue. That version of you is the most attractive thing in the world. Not because you're performing independence, but because you are genuinely alive. And men can feel that difference immediately. There's also something powerful about knowing when to be warm and when to pull back just slightly. Not in a manipulative way, but in a natural, intuitive way. The best connections have a rhythm to them. There are moments of closeness and there are moments of space, and both are necessary. You cannot have real intimacy without contrast. If everything is always intense, intensity stops feeling special. If everything is always light and casual, depth never gets a chance to build. The women who understand this naturally move between both. They can be fully warm and present in one moment and then genuinely unavailable in the next. Not because they're sending a message, but because they have a life. And that rhythm, that natural ebb and flow, keeps a man perpetually interested. He never quite reaches the point of feeling like he has all of you figured out. And that feeling of there still being more to discover is one of the most quietly addictive feelings a person can experience. Here's something else that most people skip over: humor. Genuine, effortless, unforced humor is one of the most powerful forces of attraction that exists. When a woman can make a man laugh, not by trying to be funny, not by performing, but by just being naturally sharp and playful and quick, it changes the dynamic completely. Laughter creates a bond faster than almost anything else. It lowers walls. It creates comfort. It makes time feel easy instead of effortful. And a man who laughs genuinely with a woman develops an attachment to her that is almost impossible to replicate elsewhere, because shared laughter is an intimate experience. It signals safety. It signals that this person gets me. It signals that being around this person feels good in a way that doesn't require effort. So don't underestimate the power of being fun to be around. Not loud, not try hard, just genuinely, naturally, comfortably yourself in a way that makes the whole room feel a little lighter. And finally this: the most powerful thing you can ever do in any connection is be fully present. Truly, deeply, completely present. Because real presence is one of the rarest gifts one person can give another in the world we live in right now. Everyone is distracted. Everyone is half somewhere else. Everyone is glancing at a screen or thinking about the next thing or mentally editing what they're about to say instead of actually listening to what's being said. When you choose to be fully there, when you put down everything else and give someone your complete, undivided, genuine attention, they feel it instantly. They feel it in a way they might not even be able to name right away. But they know something is different. They know being with you feels different from being with almost anyone else. And that feeling, that experience of feeling truly met by another person is what creates the deepest kind of craving. Not the surface kind. Not the kind that fades after a few weeks. The real kind. The kind that makes someone reach for their phone just to say they were thinking about you. The kind that makes a man describe you to his closest friends and struggle to explain exactly why you're different. The kind that turns into something lasting because it was built on something real. So here's the simple truth at the center of all of this. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need a new personality or a new look or some kind of script to follow. What you need is to step more fully into who you already are, to be more present, more intentional, more genuinely yourself in a way that stops shrinking to make others comfortable. The 4 keys we talked about today, anticipation, emotional and intellectual depth, sensory presence, and unshakable confidence, they're not tricks. They're not techniques you layer on top of yourself. They're qualities you uncover by removing everything that was never really you to begin with. When you live this way, attraction stops being something you have to chase or manufacture. It becomes something that simply follows you. Because a woman who knows herself, who lives fully, who engages deeply, and who carries her own energy without apology, that woman doesn't have to wonder if she's enough. She already knows she is. And so does everyone around her.